computer. Fantastic. Let's do a share screen. Boom. All right. Welcome everybody to our May webinar. Very excited to have you. My name is Chris Aviles. I am the president of Garden State Esports. If you're not familiar with Garden State Esports, we are a nonprofit organization run by teachers who started an esports league through COVID to help keep our kids connected. We have almost 105 school districts now, and we are excited to continue to offer the best we can in competition and community. And nights like tonight, careers, and letting kids understand that they may not wind up being pro players, but they could definitely find themselves in a lucrative career in the esports ecosystem. As always, like to thank our sponsors, the U.S. Army. Have been great partners in our academic endeavor to improve health and wellness among our esports athletes. And so working with them and adapting their performance triad, for our esports athletes has been fantastic. And then as always, Garden State Esports will continue to remain free for the foreseeable future, thanks to the generosity of SHI and Intel. Super excited to introduce everybody to Anthony Scala, collegiate lead at Evil Geniuses, and here to talk about what is the pathway to pro and beyond when it comes to esports. So Anthony, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to make sure you have the ability to share, which you do. I will pin you so everybody can see you in the recording. And this is your show to run, sir.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Chris, and appreciate Garden State for letting me jump in here today with all of you. We do have some cool stuff we'll talk through today. As Chris did mention, my job here at Evil Geniuses is the collegiate lead, and the main functions of that are kind of wide and vast, as are most things within this esports industry. But with that being said, what a large part of my job deals with is creating the entire curriculum and programming surrounding our internship operation at Evil Geniuses, as well as working with those groups of interns to create and program different types of events and activations for the ecosystem at large to help empower students and to create tangible opportunities. So kind of a bit about my background, but we'll talk through a couple different things today, such as really who are the evil geniuses behind all of these operations we're talking about, what specifically the Genius League collegiate operation is for us. And then what we did is we took some of the major careers that we have here at our company and wanted to help put some faces to names, so to speak, within it, right? Everyone talks about all these cool careers, all these opportunities, but you very seldom will see those people out in the spotlight themselves. So we want to highlight them and talk through their opportunities a bit. And then lastly, we'll close with kind of just a brief roadmap and a 101 for empowering students and those that are interested in these types of opportunities to help those along the way. But first and foremost, who is Evil Geniuses? And as some of you may be aware or have, met me before, somebody else from our org or been a fan for a long time now, we are the most historic team in North American professional esports. I know oldest is on the slide. It hurts a little bit when people call us old. I like to think of us as historic and veteran within the industry and seasoned with all the knowledge and past experiences of victories and failures that we're now able to be so elite because of those past and learned experiences. But we've been owned by ourselves. We've been owned by Twitch. And lastly, about 2 years ago, we were acquired by a company, Peak Six, a private group out of Chicago that holds a number of companies. And they're our single stakeholder at this point, essentially from that side. But we do currently compete across a number of different titles professionally. First and foremost, Dota 2. We are, in my opinion, the best in the world right now. And objectively, we are number one or number two rank in the world at any given point over the last 12 to 18 months at least. We also compete very actively in the CSGO, League of Legends, and Valorant scenes as well. And then we have a number of streamers and content creators that play in other titles for us. And as everyone likes to do in traditional sports or anywhere really, everyone brags about having the best fans, but of course, she actually does have the best fans, right? And we're actually close on an organizational level, though, to hiring our 100th employee So that's including players, coaches, streamers, staff, everyone else in between. This puts us in a little bit of the larger scale for professional organizations and how we hire and how our organization's actually built and runs and functions. And we'll see where some of those jobs come into play in a little while here. But with our foray into titles like Dota 2 and CSGO, we also have an extremely global presence, as those titles carry a significant amount of presence and competitive integrity within the international circuits. So we do have a very global audience, and then that's just the mass accumulation across our socials at this point for following. But talking a little bit about the collegiate platform, we launched our collegiate initiatives almost a year ago, back in mid-June. It's called the Genius League. And the platform was not only created for the reason of the first internships really of this kind of brand ambassador hybrid type functional program we offer, but it's also meant to generate, once again, those opportunities for students across the entire ecosystem. I'm the first one to tell people I would love to be able to hire 100 interns simultaneously. I don't get the approval to do so by our investors and our finance team. So I have to settle for a smaller amount of individuals at one given point. But for every 10 we hire, there's another 90 out there that are incredibly talented and deserve opportunities and access to resources. So that's what our programming really breaks down to. And year to date, though, we have over 5,000 students in our community from across 250 different schools. We've ran year to date over 200 events, and that includes tournaments, panels, networking nights, and kind of everything else in between, really. But shifting focus to how, at least on the EG side of things, we look towards the different areas or the functional departments within the esports ecosystem and how we actually craft our career strategy around this. So there's kind of 4 main functional areas within the esports space that we identify with, and that's from the events planning stage. That's going to be, and once again, for everyone, they're broad by intention here, because there's so many things, as the next slide will show, that go into this space, but we have to try to centralize them where possible. So from an event planning space, it's those that are actually help setting the stage for what's next, right? It's anything from the back end operations to the actual live production to our team managers, admins, other people that might be actually contributing. Business ops is the world that I more so operate within, more of a traditional business framework, dealing a lot with revenue and profits and loss statements and kind of everything else in between. And then team facing and content is where, honestly, all of us want to be. Right. I don't think anyone wakes up when they're 12 saying, oh, I can't wait to go be a marketing manager at Evil Geniuses. Right. They're saying, no, I want to go compete on stage in the LCS, or I'm going to become this huge streamer and content creator. And so those are the areas that people often want to lean into and focus on. And they're huge, huge parts of this industry. But there's opportunities around this entire kind of pie, so to speak. And at the center of this, though, and where you end up segueing, is where your why is, right? Why do you care about esports? Why do you care about this industry? Why do you want to be here today? These are questions that we actually ask people we interview. And more often than not, they can functionally point to the area that they align to. This slide, I think you've all probably seen at some point or another. It's a lot going on. It's busy. But the point being here is that there are so many other opportunities that extend into this ecosystem where people can develop and have careers that are not just within the competitive player themselves or the coach or the team manager or the person that's developing the game, right? There's all these other functional pieces that tie to make the entire machine work. But just to quickly touch on from a collegiate major side. So as some people are either entering college, maybe that'll tune into this, or maybe you help students that are on that track. What we try to encourage individuals, especially at this point in the industry where there isn't a lot of prioritization for companies to hire you based off the degree you have. My marketing coordinator, for example, her degree is in geography. Right. There's not the same emphasis right now that you might face in a finance or a different accounting based industry. But with the current climate of this one, it's not a prerequisite. And so within that, though, we have these major areas, and kind of where I like to leave this for students, though, is no matter which area you're in, there's probably something that's lacking from that programming that'll benefit you working in this space. For example, I work a lot with students that come from a communications background, a lot that come from psychology, actually, a lot of science, and a lot of other STEM-based backgrounds. And there are a lot of things that don't intersect there that are applicable to our industry that breed success that exist in things like a college of business, though, right? Things like project management and just understanding what a good business looks like, operates as, flows within, and kind of all those other details. So from the collegiate major side, all we really like to encourage students is identify, what is missing from the program you're interested in going into and try to supplement and find those skills on the side. And then just here on the right quickly is a couple basic statistics from our internship program year to date. We've hired 17 so far from across 10 different states. We've had over 900 applications. We've had 11 different degree concentrations of these 17. And then the last statistic there is 41% of our 17 interns have been women. And it's a statistic that unfortunately carries weight and is something to be highlighted. We are striding towards on the EG side for a day that we no longer have to specify or try to tell people and say we have such a great diverse background and workforce here, because the truth be told, the next two people up we wanted to hire last iteration were also women, and then the two other people from there, like certain stigmas that exist here from a career side or from a work functionality side within the industry are so far off for people, and there's so many qualified candidates, and so it's something that's great for others to view from, but for us it's nothing really out of the norm. We're not seeking this out. We're just simply hiring based off who are the most qualified people entering through that door on any given day with us. Now I'm moving into kind of the fun stuff where I want to introduce you to a couple different people on our team that you can actually tie a specific role to. So starting on the business admin side, looking at this just came out on social media, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, but we had, welcome to the dark side, Lauren, who's our new people team director. And it's kind of an odd title. I don't think a lot of people are in industries where they use people team instead of HR or culture or other functions like that. But what I can tell you though about Lauren and working on business admin side or working within HR people team based functions is that Lauren also comes from a background with the LA Kings in the NHL and the Rams in the NFL and 100 Thieves. And now she's at EG. And for context, people team overall runs and manages the entire culture and operation of our organization at EG. Everything from recruiting to hiring and onboarding to compliance, making sure that people get paid on time, people get their bonuses, raises, everything else in between, making sure our players can be here on their visas and our contracts run smoothly. Things do not exist without these types of people and these departments and these roles. And on kind of a more job function side in terms of what the industry needs right now, the industry needs more people that have a background in HR or a background in recruiting or operations specifically. As I'm sure anyone here can attest to from your own inner workings within the industry, things are not always clean or pretty or perfect, especially not yet. And so people that have a true organizational mind and an operational mind are highly sought after in this industry, people that can help improve things basically. And that's what Lauren is. And that's what a lot of business administration functions are within EG specifically for us, ranging from anything finance, revenue related to, once again, operations or the lawyers and legal teams that we work with. Now moving into content production a bit though, these two honestly are probably the two most highly sought after positions within the industry, in my opinion. And these plus I would say marketing or social media are like the things that go nuclear whenever I talk to people and they ask, oh, what kind of job can I, or how can I do this? Or I ask, what are you interested in? And it's almost always one of these things. I think I've had one person in 3 years tell me that they're interested in HR, actually, like as we just left the HR conversation, and I'm a former HR rep, and that was my degree actually as well. But on the content creation and production side here, it's one side or the other, right? If you're on the front facing side here on the left, you are the actual content creator. You're the one that's giving substance for content creation to happen. what that world looks like, honestly, it's not worth putting on the slides. I'm happy to talk through ways to break in as a content creator or other just great avenues to explore to help building that audience. But it's something that already exists. It's something that you don't need a specific education to better understand or somebody to really give you a shot. It's a true self-owner slash self-creator based market. And so you could leverage those opportunities. But more behind the scenes side is our producers, it's the people that are actually making some of that content cleaner and more polished and kind of putting everything all together with a nice pretty bow on it. And this video I'm going to play here in just a second is a video that we had created at the end of 2020. It recaps the first like 6 months basically of the program. And all of this start to finish was ideated, crafted, and delivered by interns at Evil Geniuses. All right. And so, like I said, that entire thing, start to finish, all interns, any statistic in there about events or operations or growth, reach, all from our interns as well, and all collegiate young professionals, basically, right? So, whether it was the actual front facing content creation side, if they were responsible for delivering for us the tournaments or some of the panels or seminars, that was their function, versus we have people that work in video editing, production, and design that helped piece together all of that and kind of collect the story. But moving focus into an area that, you know, everyone's always interested in, once again, right? Competitive side, coaching, performance, all of these things. And rather than, you know, sit here and run through the list of accolades that is, you know, our world renowned coach Peter Dunn or developmental gurus like Kelsey Moser, but those, honestly, right, they're not the jobs that everyone's going to find themselves working in full time in the industry. Generally speaking, they can happen, absolutely, just as you can be a pro player in the LCS. Just from a finite number stance, it's just far limited compared to the opportunities that exist to be in, once again, one of these other major areas. But detracting from that, there's a couple areas I think that haven't been completely solidified in this industry yet, but I believe that they will become more emphasized roles moving forward. And that's going to be things like nutrition and fitness side, psychology and mental coaching. But the one area I super hard nerd out on actually is performance optimization. And if you're ever interested in performance optimization, I encourage you, anyone who's a hockey fan, go and look up the Vancouver Canucks back in, I think it was like early 2010 or so, or early 2010s when they made their Stanley Cup run. Some of the data and the information that they were collecting from their players and their teams that led to all this crazy correlating, improving, and it's staggering what they were collecting and what kind of data they were taking in to help optimize performance. It's an area that I expect to be double down on and then triple down on in the industry moving forward, especially with all the conversations around burnout and mental fatigue and career longevity and some of these other hot topic conversations. Something has to be optimized somewhere within the ecosystem, within the chain of competitive. So positions on that side, I think, are going to be highly sought after, which also exist in traditional areas, right? So the area from performance and coaching here, like those three, I think it's super interesting because not only can you still work in any other industry to learn from people that have been doing it for literal decades and learn from the best and then apply it back to this industry, right? Everyone else or a lot of other jobs are in positions where you don't always have a mentor to look up to or somebody who's been doing it for decades and decades successfully, albeit a different industry that you can parallel to and draw this experience from. So those areas I think are going to boom. If anyone's looking to get a performance or coaching side or is generally interested in them, nutrition and fitness, it takes very little to get into. I'll say it's just a lot of self-dedication and understanding more than anything. You can go the technical route and go to school and all that as well, but um, psychology, mental coaching, we actually have an intern who's a psychology major. He's graduating, that's interested in going into this area and the performance ops side specifically. So just want to show here the kind of wide range of opportunities that even exist within the more specific gaming framework of coaching, right? Everyone just says, oh, I'm going to go be a League of Legends coach or whatever else might be, but there's all these other little granular pieces that are in play here. For example, I think from a League of Legends side, we probably have a coaching staff of around at least 5 or 6 at this point, right? And to put that in perspective, we have 15 total players, I believe, between our LCS Academy and Prodigy teams. Now, going into the EDU world, education, right? It's what all of you are very well versed in, and you're all either teachers or have been teachers or are still teaching or any mix and blend between these 2 things or 3 things. And similarly, though, at the end of the day, that's what our mission is here for our youth and collegiate initiatives, is that we want to help develop the next champions, and we set out to do so. And so within education, we find that these kind of 3 things at its core: curriculum, teaching / instruction or coaching, as well as innovation, are kind of the 3 areas we see a lot of opportunity primed for the next kind of wave of students or the wave of young professionals that want to start to break in. And on the side of teaching, I would say this translates to coaching as well, right? They're pretty parallel here, and I'm sure any of you teachers can attest to this, and or tell me I'm wrong, and I'm happy to retract. But I believe on the coaching side for sure that not everyone is a coach, or not everyone is truly a successful teacher in that regard. I think that some people just often default to coaching or saying that, oh, I'm gonna go coach league because I played and I was good at it. I tell people if they want to look at traditional sports, go look at Jordan or Gretzky's bench records. Not great, right? So I think there's other ways to be involved, though, past the scope of just saying, I want to go coach in esports. I'm going to go be an esports coach. I think that there's other ways to help enable people that have a ton of skill and upside in those areas that we can leverage more so, rather than it being a pipeline for people. But on the other side of it, innovation is where I'm going to encourage anybody to be right now within the esports ecosystem. It is moving so quickly. There are very little barriers, and which ones exist, it's honestly pretty easy to knock down if you put in the right effort and you frame it the right way. So this industry is just primed for new products and innovation to spawn. And so what we have here are 3 logos on the right, some of which you may have seen, or maybe you've seen none of them at this point specifically. But the one on the left here, the purple one, that's actually for a program that we're going to be launching either this week or next week. It should drop officially, but that is for our youth camps. And that's going to be starting right now. First wave that's going to happen in July. That's for individuals between the ages of 13 and 17, with a focus on League of Legends and holistic esports development. Within that camp, actually, we also do a Plus Parents Day in session as well. So we help parents better understand the industry, what their children or students are going through, what they're experiencing, and kind of what those conversations are all surrounding. And then on the right there, the kind of teal one is our Genius Summit, which is slated to be a week-long professional career developmental boot camp that spans pretty much an average of 40 hours of training and networking. And it's an opportunity for new students or young professionals to kind of gain new experience, gain access to different networks, and just kind of try to up level their own knowledge and understanding of the industry. And then lastly, here on the bottom is the nice EG logo with the grad cap on. And that's one of our Genius League logos. And the platform for the Genius League is focused on empowering students and creating opportunities through innovation, is the same exact one that has now led to these other 2 logos I just mentioned being created, right? Our camps for 13 to 17 and our professional development boot camps for 18 plus, essentially, all from an education and innovative kind of approach. And so for anyone that's interested, really just kind of shaking things up, I guess is the easiest way to put it. this is the area to do it. There is so much knowledge that needs to be shared at this point. It's not centralized really in a lot of locations. We're at this really interesting segue within the industry right now where it can go a lot of different directions. So there's really no one size fits all solution or that things are set in stone one way or the other. So go out and innovate and create, right? I tell people if there's ever an opportunity to go and disrupt the educational space, which, you know, loves to be set in its ways, especially higher ed, now is the time to do it. And here's the platform to do so. But moving into, as I said, you know, stuff that, you know, people like a little bit more maybe to openly talk about, which is money or marketing. And, you know, pay to win equals pay to play. And so we need to market our brands and we need to be able to make money. And opportunities, honestly, in either side of these worlds look very similar to other industries, with the exception of I do believe there's a lot more opportunity to create and drive change right now in this industry through these areas than there are in other spaces. And that's simply because of one, the average employee tenure in industry so far, right? This industry doesn't have a crazy high talent density yet. It'll happen eventually, but we're not there yet. So there's tons of opportunity for new people to enter and grab it. There's less barriers or guardrails, so it's easier to go outside the box and create at this point too, especially because once again, things aren't established or locked in as good, or this is the only way to do it. So you can go and disrupt and do it a way that you seem fitting. On the right side, though, it was a 6-part panel series that we just completed called our Genius Takeover series. It was hosted live by myself out of our Razor Room in Seattle, Washington at our EGHQ. And this is actually an example where we collaborated to create a defined asset, the panel, which was built by our collegiate team, that could be branded and marketed with its own campaign, recap clips, metrics, measurements, and all these things, right? So just to kind of explain for those interested in a revenue side, you know, this is gonna be partnership sales, activations, anything else between, and then the branding marketing side. And where these two things segued was a product like this for us, right? So we had students and our interns actually leading the process for helping coordinate all of these panels and putting them together, clipping them, taking in and setting all the data, metrics, expectations, everything in between. And then on the partnership side, though, they worked cross-functionally with different leaders and directors to basically ensure that this goes off without a hitch to a major partner of the company. So it's not only for us a way that we look to flex young professionals into challenging new opportunities, but more practically speaking, this is something from a career and a job functionality side that you don't have to do only in this industry, right? I always like to tell people, like, please go get experience doing something. If you can get in this industry tomorrow, awesome. Never going to deter you from doing so. But if you can't, make sure you're still trying to follow those steps to support what you need to fill from a knowledge gap stance to get in the industry later. And then moving into, I think I have two of these left, media and journalism, then information tech. This one I think is super interesting because in my opinion, not enough schools and programs focus their time on media and journalism. I think that this industry can feel like an echo chamber at times, and it's easy to only be consuming one or two forms of media and news from, you know, a very particular group or person or a couple companies, whatever it might be. And so this is an area I see tons of opportunity for improvement. Um, for those of you that maybe somebody, this is back in November we did it, but if anyone's familiar with Jacob Wolf, we helped collaborate with him after he exited ESPN back in the fall to put on the Jacob Wolf free agency show. And so this was basically a show dedicated to Jacob Wolf, who is known in the industry as being one of the best investigative journalists or reporters in the esports scene, basically. He's known for often breaking the news on trades or player movements before teams do. And his story, honestly, if you haven't heard of him before, if you're not familiar with it, I encourage you to go look him up, go check out some of his past videos and clips, because his story is very interesting. He basically just went into full send it mode, as I like to say, within the media and journalism space, and started just writing articles and forcing his way in, knocking on doors, making new connections. until he eventually got to the point where, he could interview for an awesome new job. I think it was with ESPN at the time. And, basically said, I'm absolutely hands down, unequivocally the best candidate you have in play, and you need to hire me. And that, especially from the media journalism side, is how not easy, right? But how simple I think it can be to start a career, especially in this space right now. There are very few Jacob Wolfs out there in this space at this moment. Few and far between. You have a couple people that run consistent kind of media or a journalism kind of approach to things, but few and far between. So if anyone is interested in just writing, journalism, English, anything else, awesome fields to look into. Or on the admin side, definitely start leveraging students' skills a little bit more here and try to, push them to create blog content or just have a greater hand in kind of all media or journalism needs. And then lastly here from an information tech side, I want to introduce you here on the right to Soham. He's our head of data scientists. If anyone's not familiar with him though, he also goes by Valens. He is the first North American coach to win a Valve sponsored major. He was a CSGO professional and coach. He won with Cloud9, I think it was 4 years ago now. Former Stanford graduates. He is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. And he works as our head of data scientist though, or data science rather, sorry. And so basically, as a lot of people would imagine, for anything related to the information and tech world, we actually do at EG have a pretty built out team. We have individuals like Soham who spearhead different projects for us to help try to give a competitive advantage for our players and our programs through high level stat tracking and in-depth analytics for League of Legends or other titles. And that program's also coupled with other individuals that work in computer engineering, or in our case, we have a chief innovation officer, right? And this is an area I think that it's obviously huge. It's going to keep continuing to scale up. But once again, there's so much opportunity for new people to enter the market right now or create products or be involved. And this is an area that there's no shortage of that. There is no shortage of people right now looking to spend money and create new products, to build new technology, and to try to innovate and figure out what is going on in this industry in a lot of ways. So if anyone's interested in coding or data analytics, data science, anything in between, have no misconception, there's nothing but opportunity for you. But lastly, ran through literally a ton of roles. I know, introduced you to some people, got maybe a better understanding for what some of these positions now entail, but how you actually kind of get yourself there is a different conversation, right? So here's kind of the 5 high level tips that I try to tell people when they're at least starting to try to figure it out, right? At the first one, IDing your passion and interests. Simply put, what makes you tick, right? It's those questions again. Why are you here? Why do you care about this industry? Why do you get out of the bed in the morning, and what makes you excited to solve or do something? Without understanding that, it's going to be very tough to build a plan forward. Skill assessment can be a bit uncomfortable for people sometimes, but it is absolutely necessary. When I ask people, what do you want to do at Evil Geniuses? And they say, oh, I want to work in partnerships and sales. I love it. I know I'd be great at it. Great. Have you ever done it before? You have any past experience? No, I don't. Right. They've never sold anything before. They're applying for a mid-level sales position without ever having that skill defined or built upon. So try to figure out essentially, what are these skills that I have or don't have? And then you move into that third step where you actually take those skills you're missing, try to determine what do I need to improve on, or what do I need to learn, set some goals, and then start moving forward. And for move forward, I can't emphasize this enough. Like, just don't labor, just move, just go, 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 go. There's a clear difference right now in this industry for those for people and orgs both that are extremely decisive and move quickly. They don't move unjustifiably or without strategy or intent, but no misconception, they move very quickly. And I encourage others to do so as well once you have a good strategy in place. And then lastly, you're going to reflect and update, right? It's what you need or want that'll change and shift depending. So just make sure you're constantly keeping these things updated though. And as you develop these skills, you're looking to identify what are my new gaps. And then this is kind of just the reframed way for it, right? Focus on you. Don't focus on your neighbor, your peer, your buddy, cousin, mother, brother, father, whoever it might be, right? It's about you and what you need to be developed and what you need to succeed. And then identifying the gaps goes hand in hand with kind of, assessing what the goals need to be and what those needs are. And then live application. Once again, I'm a sink or swim person myself. I don't always encourage people to go about it that way. And I always do say, if you're ever putting someone in a position, you ask if that is what they prefer. But once you have the green light to move, and once you have the things that you need to start going, go, right? The best feedback that you can get comes from live application. So don't just wait for a perfect scenario to come up that makes you feel compelled to jump in. And then lastly, from admin side, right, it can be very tough for different leaders to delegate and give back opportunities. I was always that way myself. I would love having control over the project, and it became like my child. I just wanted to own it and drive it and steer it. And it can be tough to kind of pass up, opportunities to other people, or to try to share that learning experience with them. But everyone, try your best, especially if you have students that are hyper interested and do have a lot of skills and potential. Try to push them and try to really give them as much opportunity as possible. And from a helping students get connected side, I just try to encourage people, literally whatever contacts you have, just share them, right? Students need a greater access to a network or greater exposure. They need to expand their skills. And if they can do so at a younger age, it's even better. And then lastly, and I know a lot of you are great with this one already, just from stuff that Chris tells me, right? But the practice of goal setting early cannot be understated. It can be small victories, it can be day-to-day things, just little wins. But this becomes so much less daunting for people at 22 if they've been used to doing it, successfully since 14. And then lastly here, close with a little brief game. So 100% of EG interns have said these are the two best things about working at EG. And then 94.11, 16 out of 17, percent of EG interns have this commonality in their background. So with that being said, I will leave it to if anyone has any thoughts or ideas of what these things might be. If anyone can guess it right on, I will happily give you a prize of some sort. But if not, I mean, we'll sit here, and if anyone wants to guess it, otherwise I'll tell you at the end. But regardless of that, I don't have any other slides. So if anyone has any questions for me, more than happy to answer some questions, or I can start pulling into the chat here as well.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Yeah, so if you guys want to unmute or you want to ask in the chat, especially I know we have some students, consider this the opportunity to pick Anthony's brain. I mean, I'm excited from a Garden State Esports standpoint to be working with Evil Geniuses and have access to Anthony. And, when you think about the opportunities that we have to help kids see themselves in college and now post-secondary careers, I think it's really exciting. I think it's exciting from a coaching standpoint. I think it's exciting from a player standpoint. But yeah, I mean, any questions, any thoughts?
Yeah, and apologies if there was no sound in that video. I'm used to Teams. I thought about that like literally as I clicked it, and I was like, it's fine. It's a nice little catchy one. I'll drop it in here for the people. But
Darian's got a question, and like I was sharing, being a very talented player beyond his years, what opportunities are there out there for students under 13 at this point? And if there's not, maybe how can they be ready to take advantage of these opportunities when they become 13? Because I know, isn't that kind of the breakpoint age with EG and different organizations?
It is, and that's, I mean, mostly, right, it's going to come down to just a compliance piece, right? A lot of terms of service stuff turns over at 13, generally speaking, so that's usually where people define a line. As far as what tournaments are accessible, I still think there's a number of tournaments that are open and available to be competed in, regardless of your age. Not everyone verifies or tries to validate your age and check into that. On the EG side specifically, it just depends on the event for us. We do 3 different things realistically. We run collegiate events, so ones that are specifically invites for collegiate students or teams or established programs. We do high school invitationals as well that we're starting to look to pioneer, which hopefully Chris and the group here will be some of the first people we pull in for that kind of stuff, but we're exploring high school specific competition. And then the third one that we do is just straight up open for entry to people. We do those a little bit more few and far between, I'd say comparatively, but we do events that are open for anyone to enter. So if you were under 13, in theory, you could enter that event, assuming there's no other kind of weird stipulation. If it was something that dealt with prizing, it would just have to be a parent's signature to release your prizing and stuff like that as normal. But past that, though, I mean, for anyone that I would say is especially under 13 and truly elite or trending towards trying to be rather, that's what I encourage. And through, the safety of Chris and other people in network that you'd have and you feel comfortable with getting in contact though with the best of the best in the country collegiately right now too. Right. Like I think there's, Northwood University and Akron are the two that normally go head to head. I think it was Winthrop, I believe the other day, just actually beat Northwood in one of them. And I know Bay State's rumored to have a top, nationally competitive program next year for Rocket League and other titles. And so that's the other side. I think if there's not that opportunity, I think having somebody in your network that's comfortable reaching out to one of those very established, strong programs and getting you plugged in earlier is never a bad thing. Once again, assuming, it's handled the right way from the leaders and across with the parents and everyone's informed on it.
Love it. And then we have a question in chat is a common one, that I hear as a coach. And it's funny is even going back to when I coached varsity sports, parents and even the kids, right? They always dared to dream that they could end up in the major leagues or in the NFL. And I've been lucky enough to coach. I have two kids that play in the major leagues. I have kids that I have a kid in the NFL. And obviously in the 10 or 11 years I was doing that, right, they are a fraction of the percentage of all the kids who came through the program. But what do we say to kids when they say, hey, I want to be a pro player? What steps can they take, right? So if you were maybe Anthony to give advice to them or give advice to their coaches, how can we set them up and how can they set themselves up to potentially, take advantage and get to where they want to be?
Yeah, it's definitely a question that we field a lot, right? How do you get noticed or how do you go about getting there? And so a couple things, and I'll just preface one by saying, though, I do believe that if you are objectively one of the best in your craft, in your games or titles, you will be found by one of the orgs at some point, right? I do believe that with how leaderboards and a lot of the other stuff works, that just generally speaking, if you can eclipse a certain ranking, you're going to be on the radar in some cases. From the other side of it, I think it starts with honestly conversations like this, right? Or Chris, that you and I have had, right? It starts from candidly more organizations like EG being willing to come and have conversations and just provide education. Because unfortunately, there's not always a very transparent or linear way to tap into the recruiting pipeline, right? It is, I would say, from the competitive side, it comes down to who you know a little bit. Not that you need to know somebody to get in, but just to have a contact that can point you in the direction of the person that needs to see you in some cases helps right now. So I know that's not always the easiest answer, but so I think that having orgs like this, GSE, and having people like Chris and the rest of the coaches here being willing to say, hey, we have someone who's genuinely and seriously interested in. Because I think that's the other thing though, right? I think that everyone is also the first to say, I'm going to go, play in the LCS. I want to go be a pro player and do this and that. I think if I can talk you out of it relatively quickly, you probably weren't actually that dead set on it. And so, my, I guess, more practical application advice rather than trying to tap networks and trying to, just become and grind and be the best. But I say have that true, internal self-evaluation. Is this really what you want? Because I do think that people view being a pro player sometimes as like this big glorified thing. It's incredible and it's just so much fun. And it is. And don't get me wrong, but it's a ton of work too. I mean, the work that goes in behind the scenes to become that, to do that, to do it for some cases, 18 hours a day at the highest level, it's intense. So I tell people as well that are striding towards it, if you are dead serious on you're going to do this or you're going to die trying, don't let anybody talk you out of doing it then, and be set on that. But like I said, TLDR, I do believe that if you are hyper talented, if you are top of the top percent player in one of those games, that there's ways to get noticed. There's ways to kind of start to put yourself out there. And then same thing, if you are good, lean into content creation, please. Like, it doesn't have to be the most amazing quality, but just consistently put out content. YouTube somewhere. Don't start on Twitch. It's a lot easier, spoiler, to build an audience somewhere else and then migrate to Twitch versus building an organic audience yourself on Twitch at this point, especially if you're a League of Legends player or one of the other titles that is just hyper saturated. But content creation, grinding, and just asking yourself, is this really what I want to spend all my time and investment in?
And that actually, I have a question, I guess, tangentially related to that. From your perspective, or I guess the EG perspective, one thing that I get a bunch of emails about is college showcases and, getting kids' resumes in front of colleges. How legitimate is a lot of that? Is EG looking at college showcases? Is EG talking to respected college programs about their kids? When these opportunities come and they're saying, showcase your kid, it's hard for me to discern, okay, what's legitimate, what's a money maker. The last thing I want to do is have any kids have a negative experience or have my, the kids in GSE monetize, right? We want to make sure that they're safe, they're having a wonderful experience. So where is, what advice do you have about that aspect, right? Is the collegiate showcase legitimate? Are these portfolio websites that are coming out legitimate? Is that something that EG's looking at?
Yeah, I think it depends. So just to clarify, I guess for collegiate showcase, I think there's value if it's high school students with the intention of helping create like a recruiting funnel to collegiate. I think that as a collegiate showcase is great. To sell a collegiate showcase of college level players framed as come here to get recruited by pros, I don't necessarily buy into that. And once again, this is me. I'm not on the gaming side, so I don't get invited to these things anyway. Apparently, they don't care if Anthony gives input about the League of Legends players, but I thought Platinum was good enough. My mistake. But my opinion is I don't think that that's valid, right? I think it's the best way of positioning it. I think positioning it as if you're the best of the best, come compete against the best of the best and show yourself. I think that's a more realistic way to approach it because I look at traditional sports for what they run for showcases and things like that, right? Where generally speaking, you'll go there and a lot of showcases, you'll come out with, a half a roster, right? And, it's depending on the sport, 8 kids, 10 kids, 12 kids, whatever. League of Legends, right? We might be only looking to fill one single roster slot that's split or heading into that off season, right? Maybe we just reloaded. Maybe we're looking for a whole roster. It varies, but I don't think that pro teams are likely to start showing up to a all collegiate showcase with the intention of like loading an entire roster that they weren't privy to before. I'm inclined to think that a lot of people that they would be seeing or interested in at those showcases were probably on their radar at some point before showing up that day specifically. I think there are cases where it happens. You have somebody who fell through the cracks, who doesn't stream, who's maybe just on that bubble enough. So one example for us is I know that we have a player in a title, unspecified, that we're looking at that comes from a collegiate ecosystem, though, that honestly just came from product of having a conversation with said school and getting to know their students and helping them out is honestly how that one came up. So that is probably one of the more organic, authentic ones I've seen happen. But I agree, Chris, right? Like, I think it's a tough sell for some platforms because trying to say that we're a platform dedicated to getting people to pro, or rather placing them in pro, rather, it's tough because that puts the burden to an EG or whoever to acknowledge said platform and come in and say, yes, we pulled someone here for this intention. It's the same reason that for anything we do, right, whether it's the professional development side for like the 18 plus boot camps or whether it's the camps for 13 to 17, it's all messaged and positioned as a supplement or a teaching / developmental tool. It's not a promise of anything, not even close. It's, are you serious about getting better? Are you serious about improving? Great. These things will tangibly do both, but what you do with it after and how you apply, it's really on you, but it's not a shortcut. It's not a cheat code. which I think a lot of people right now get sucked up into things because they, everyone wants the shortcut or the cheat code to get in or to be the pro player to get here. So that's my long-winded way, Chris, of saying that I personally do not buy into a collegiate showcase with the intention of streamlining to pro for, I'll say, most titles, at least that I'm privy to.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's important because I'm sure the coaches here, like me, get invitations and opportunities that are basically promising, send your kid in and, we'll make sure that they're in front of the best colleges, or, these colleges will make sure that they're playing for EG next week. And, with esports the way it is right now, it's kind of the Wild West. And so educating the coaches and even the kids to be able to understand, sometimes if it's too good to, sound too good to be true, it usually is. And so it's nice to hear somebody at the top, kind of echoing that and saying, really, like anything else, it comes down to hard work. It comes down to networking, a commitment to improving yourself. I would say, with my educator hat on, probably making sure that the content that you're producing is positive and inclusive. And, because I'm sure you have seen, well, I mean, maybe that's a great question is, say you have the most talented player in the world, if they are somebody who has a toxic attitude and values that maybe obviously don't represent what EG would be looking for, I mean, that has to be a deal breaker, right?
Oh yeah, for us it's a no question. And player, coach, staff, whoever, me, right? Like easy, cut the reins loose. Anthony's fired tomorrow if he's ever becomes that guy, right? And I stand by it, and I'm the first to sign off on that data line because I don't think there's a trade-off. It's not a trade-off worth making, especially in an industry that's still kind of getting its bearings in a lot of ways. I mean, I don't know if any of you on teacher or program side have had it happen to you. I know I have in traditional sports and on esports programs I've consulted with, but one or two bad people can ruin it for literal years, right? Like a stretch of a bad couple of months and like your next 3 years are just gone and just, it looks like an abyss. And so for us, no, not at all. For other orgs, I don't think they put the same priority on it. With that being said, one of my rabbit hole points of curiosity is always what the long-term play will be once we've successfully put in a lot of these channels and guardrails in place for helping combat these behaviors at younger ages, right? Because at the pro level right now, in a lot of cases, we get somebody at, between 18 and 22 that, for a lot of them, how much have they really been, not that we yell at people, but for conversational sake, how much have they been yelled at or told, no, that's not a good behavior, don't do that, that's toxic, it's bad, it's whatever. And it hasn't happened enough, so we haven't really seen it at the end of the funnel. So I'm curious years down the road when all the people and students that originated at GSE are coming through the amateur and pro ranks and how they kind of handle themselves and just conversations as people differently than what we're seeing now.
Yeah, I love that because I mean, I think that is one of the most important things that I hope kids take away, whether it's Garden State Esports or whatever their scholastic involvement is. It's not just being good at a game, it's also being a good person. It's also putting in the work and making sure you elevate yourself, but also elevate others. You're inclusive and thoughtful. And, like I always say, esports is just a platform that we need to use to teach kids what we want them to know, right? And digital citizenship, as we call it in education, and being a good person, and being inclusive and bringing others, lifting them up rather than knocking them down, is important. So to see that echoed at the, what I look to as the elite organization when it comes to professional esports, it makes me feel like the mission and what we're working for is super valuable. So I think that's really cool. And I'm hoping folks, parents and especially kids here take that home with them, is understanding it's not okay to be toxic. And, you might be anonymous playing your games, but if you have any aspirations of taking this into a career or as a professional player, you better learn how to, act now. So I think that's really important to hear from somebody besides their teachers or coaches. Other questions, friends, especially from our up and coming students?
I saw the one on a campsite. So just to clarify, camps are all virtual at this point. Both the camps and our professional development summits are all slated to be virtual.
There we go. And I could get more info if we need it. We have any interested folks.
Yeah, and then just to answer, so 100% of our interns have said these two things, by the way. First, they've said that you get to do things here you won't get to do elsewhere, or you wouldn't get to do in other companies. And then the second thing that they all say is you never feel like an intern while you're here. Those are the two things literally all of our interns have echoed time and time again. And so from us, at least on the empowerment side, it comes from just incredibly well-defined high trust behaviors we build up over time with them.
Love
Right.
it.
I tell all of our interns they have to be 100% comfortable failing, because that's what this industry is built on right now, just failing over and over again until we figure it out. But with the understanding that, I as their leader am never going to put them in a failing situation, right? Might fail always, but I'm never gonna, not give you the tools you need to succeed. So those are the two things we do there. And then 16 out of 17 of our interns have also come from self-developed programs or backgrounds, and only one of them has come from a collegiate program that has a full-time staff member that's a director over the top of it. The other 16 have all come from areas or programs that they built or they had a huge part in building, or their background in general is just extremely self-made. So nothing, not crazy sample sizes yet, but a lot of interesting things I think that are coming out of what we see in collegiate. So I'd say on the high school level, it's even more important that when, we get these superstar passionate, interested students, that we help give them responsibility and just help build those, that high trust behavior and really accelerate them, because 16 out of 17 of the ones that we've had, those are the kids that they were 6 years ago, and the kids that they were 4 years ago, and now 2 years ago, and now got them to us where, 3 of them graduate here in the next month, and we'll have another couple, full-time employees here at EG will convert and stuff like that too. So something I think that misses at some college programs, but high schools can definitely accelerate and use.
Yeah, I mean, and to the coaches here and the coaches that are going to be watching this, that's one of the reasons why one of the things that we talk about at Garden State Esports all the time is that team behind the team, right? I don't just have players on my team. I also have our social media strategist. I have our statisticians. I have our casters. Giving kids these hands-on experiences with careers is that high trust, kind of team building, relationship building, kid building kind of stuff that we can do, with our programs. So making sure that we have that team behind the team. And I've told some high schools who really do have some kids that are dedicated to this, even at like the Garden State Esports level, I'm always looking for help. So getting some kids who would love to put in some time and do some marketing for Garden State, I always have jobs, want to write some copy. And so now you can imagine whether it's on their team, Garden State Esports, into college, right? There's these opportunities to continue to build that resume and network and build relationships and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think what you're saying is something we can absolutely model in our classrooms and at Garden State Esports is a meaningful internship program like you're talking about. So I think that's kind of exciting too, and an area that I know I'm looking forward to working with EG on. So I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We're kind of hitting the 1 hour mark. I will open it one last second. If anybody has any questions for Anthony, speak now or forever hold your peace. There you go, dude. You killed it.
Cool.
Everybody's super excited.
Appreciate you and appreciate everyone's time.
Anthony kindly sharing his contact information. If you guys have any questions, I'm sure he would be happy to answer. I'm looking forward to building the GSE EG relationship. So you guys are going to be seeing a lot more of Anthony. And we have a lot of stuff in the pipeline that I think is going to be really exciting for our kids and our programs to continue to help us grow. But Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time. Coaches, thank you for coming. Kids, love that you guys came. That is awesome. Super stoked about that. And to those watching at home, this is something that we can model in our classrooms. We can take the same values, we can take the same style of programs and use it like we always do to elevate our students through esports. So thank you everybody for coming. This was absolutely wonderful. Our most attended and really one of the most exciting webinars we've put on. So we're definitely going to have you back, Anthony, probably a bunch to continue building out this career side of esports for our kids. So thank you, sir. And thank you everybody else for coming. And we at Garden State Esports are always happy to help. So feel free to reach out if you need anything.